Hi everyone, this is Professor Benjamin, and the objective of this video is to give you a walkthrough of the water assignment. The water assignment can be found within the water module, and it's usually at the bottom. I'm going to open up the water assignment and walk you through it. So the objective of this reflection paper is for students to understand the importance of deterring surface runoff in the city of Philadelphia. Students will understand the difference between porous and non-porous surfaces, and will also become aware of the importance of having porous surfaces on their properties. So a couple things. Number one, permeable versus impermeable surfaces. So permeable allows water to penetrate through. Impermeable surfaces, water runs off of. So concrete, even pavers, even brick, anything that's paved over allows water to run off. Buildings cause water to run off. Porous or permeable surfaces allow water to penetrate through, and we need water to penetrate through the ground because it actually is captured in these huge basins of water underneath the ground called aquifers. And a lot of us actually pull water off for the aquifer systems. Now, in the city of Philadelphia, we actually pull our water off the Delaware River, where it's cleaned and then pumped to our homes, which then it flushes into our sewer system, and then our sewer system are cleaned at our sewage treatment plants, and it's pumped back into the Delaware at a lower point, and actually cleaner than when we pull it off the Delaware. But in a lot of other cases, you might know someone who has well water, and that is where they are actually pulling water from an aquifer system below the ground. It is a reserve system, a system that allows us that if all of our rivers ran out dry, that we could pump water from these aquifers. And all of the layers of the ground actually clean the water as it is in these crystal clear aquifer systems. And it's really important for us to recharge those aquifers by not having impermeable surfaces. The issue is that in the city of Philadelphia, we've allowed a lot of paving to happen. Paving of front yards, paving of backyards, paving of streets, building new homes where there was one home, now there's two homes, right? And what happens is when it rains, all of that water rushes off of the properties into the streets, it goes into the sewer systems, it goes into the river systems, and guess what happens? The rivers flood. And if you haven't noticed, in areas like Manayunk and East Falls, all along Kelly Drive, right, Martin Luther King Drive, all of those areas flood a lot lately. I'm talking like what would be what they call a 500-year flood, meaning once in 500 years or once in every 100 years, is becoming more and more and more frequent. And the reason is we are building way too much in the city of Philadelphia and paving over way too much. So, the city of Philadelphia actually put into place a stormwater runoff charge. And if you own a home in the city of Philadelphia or you pay a water bill, on the back of your bill you'll actually see it talks about the service charge. But there is a line item and you'll see it. And sometimes it's about $14.77 a month, maybe even more depending upon how much you have paved over on your property or how big your lot is. But I know mine for a row home was about $14.77 a month. And it was a line item. It said surface water runoff on my bill. Now, if you rent and your water's included, you won't see that, right? But if you do own a home, or you, even if you rent a home, sometimes maybe you're given the bills when you rent a home, you'll see that line item charge. And it says it helps to upgrade the sewer systems because the sewer systems can't take all the runoff anymore. And it's a big issue in the city of Philadelphia. So the whole objective of this paper is to look at your stormwater runoff charge. And if you don't have a bill, then you need to think about that. Well, I do, think about that probably within your water bill charge, in your rent, it includes that charge. And no one's safe. Churches are charged it, schools are charged it, etc. Now, churches and schools are charged an enormous a larger amount, because they have more surface areas that are paved over. Parking lot at a church has a lot of paved surfaces. At CCP, we're charged an enormous amount because we have parking lots, we have buildings, all of that, right? you can lower your runoff charge. You need to make upgrades to your property, and that means you need to take up where there's concrete. Or, in the case of Philadelphia, you can put in a rain barrel. And you actually can get free rain barrels. Well, you used to be able to get rain barrels through the Philadelphia Horticultural Society, PHS. They used to run clinics where you could, or seminars where you can register as a Philadelphia resident and you attend the training, and then they actually give you a rain barrel that you can attach to your downspout on your home, and you're able to collect the water. Other things are to remove, of course, the concrete and plant grassy surfaces or gardens. Rain gardens are another one. You'll actually see them off of Lincoln Drive. As you're driving up Lincoln Drive towards Germantown, on the right-hand side, you'll actually see basins of areas where they've built out either the road, or on the side they're called rain gardens, and they collect rain and store it there to allow it to percolate through the soil. The other thing is you'll actually see green roofs. So the Free Library of Philadelphia has a green roof. On the back side of the pavilion, there's a little green roof area on Community College of Philadelphia. Also on the Bonnell building, there's a green roof there. And there's both intensive or extensive green roofs. Intensive mean you plant vegetation that has to be maintained. Extensive means you plant sepum, which is kind of like a dry grass, or sometimes it's almost like a succulent that does not need much attention. The first year you plant it, it does. Now, to put that on your roof of your home, it costs a lot of money. But if your roof is coming all the way off, it is an option to use. But a lot more areas are putting these green roofs on, which trap and hold the water, and then it actually percolates through a pipe, and then it's stored in cisterns below, and those cisterns you can water plants with, or wash your cars with, etc. It's like a rain barrel, but what's stored under the ground. So these are options that will lower your stormwater runoff charge. And you, of course, need to apply to the city and say, hey, take a look at the upgrades I did, and then it'll lower your charge. So here's what the objective of the assignment is. Students describe the scientific method. Well, these are the ideas. So, okay. Write a one-page single-space paper answering the questions based on the paragraphs below. The rubric, of course, is attached below. Here's the rubric. You want to make sure you're using this to decide, to make sure that you've addressed all these issues so I can give you full credit. Surface runoff is an enormous problem. I kind of just went back to tell you that. And your paper that you're going to write, the one-page single-space paper, should have an introduction, the body, and a conclusion. No header information. Paper explains the problem of surface runoff in the city of Philadelphia, including the variable that causes runoff. So I want you to talk about runoff. I want you to talk about the problems with runoff in the city of Philadelphia. And then I want you to explain why the table on the following link is important to understanding flooding in Philadelphia, and what inferences can be taken by the amount and size of flood events in the recent years. So I want you to look at this link, and it's going to give you, in the past years, how many major flooding events we've had happen. And you'll actually see that they've increased recently. And a lot of that, of course, has to do with climate change. We're receiving a lot more rain, but also a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are regentrifying the city, paving over more, and this causes a problem. The paper gives examples of ways that residents can lower their surface runoff charge. So I just gave you a couple. Rain barrels, rain gardens, green roofs. There's tons of different options. And the paper gives factual opinion as to whether the current runoff charge deters residents from paving over surfaces. And this is a good one, right? This is a tragedy of the commons. You could bring that in. Is the idea of this fine changing people's behavior? It's like the sin tax, correct? Right? So we have a sin tax on sugary beverages in the city of Philadelphia. Has that deterred you from buying sugary beverages? So is the idea of the sin tax, or an idea of mutual corrosion, changing your behavior? It's a technical solution but is it really getting to that moral compass and changing your behavior? So I want you to address that. Now you're going to need to use factual basis. So look up whether the syntax is working in the city of Philadelphia, and you can bring that idea in to back up whether you believe it is happening or not. To be honest with you, it's probably not changing people's behavior, and it's not changing people's behavior because the charge isn't high enough. It is not high enough for us to look at our bill and say, whoa, that's a lot of money. I should change my behavior. Most people pay their water bill, or you're struggling enough just to make ends meet that you're just trying to get by, that you're not even thinking about that additional charge that's on your water bill. And so we need to think about these things, okay? So make sure that you answer those questions above. Okay, and I want you to think about that. Is it a reasonable way to change people's behavior by charging them? And I want you to think about that. So, paper explains here, explains, you look at this table and you explain in detail whether it's really the inferences that have been made. You give me examples of how to change our behavior, and also whether you think that runoff charge is working. And then you bring it together with a conclusion, and make sure you've checked all these boxes here. Okay, with that city of runoff and deterring, etc. Okay, so make sure you've checked all these boxes, answered these questions, and checked all these boxes for your water assignment paper. I'm hoping that this walkthrough gave you a little idea of my expectations for the paper. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Again, if Turn It In is working, that option will be there for you. If it's not working, then I am going to remove it from the option. And from semester to semester, this will change depending upon Turn It In and whether it's integrated into Canvas or not. So take a look at the walkthrough. If Turn It In is working, you will see it up here, in here. If it is not working, then I'm going to remove this and you will not see this option up here. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.